Welcome to the channel Rare Coin Finder, and today we are about to take you on a journey so breathtaking, so absolutely mind-bending, that by the time this video ends, you will never look at an old coin the same way again. Imagine, just for a second, that you are cleaning out your grandmother's attic, dusting off old boxes, sorting through forgotten trinkets, and then your fingers brush against something small, something cold, something that feels almost alive with history, and you pull it out into the light, and it's a coin, just a tiny little piece of gold, dated 1892, a $1 gold coin from the United States of America, and you think nothing of it. Maybe you smile, maybe you put it in your pocket, maybe you almost toss it aside. But here is the moment that would change your life forever, because this coin, this unassuming, small, breathtakingly rare piece of American history, has sold at auction for a staggering, almost incomprehensible $358 million. Yes, you heard that correctly. $358 million for a single, small gold coin that fits right in the palm of your hand. And before we go any further into the extraordinary story of this 1892 $1 gold coin, I need you to do one thing, just one thing. Stick with us till the very end of this video, because what's coming next, the coins we are revealing after this one, they carry secrets and values so staggering, so earth-shattering, that collectors around the world have literally lost sleep over them, and trust me, you do not want to miss what's coming. Now let's talk about the year 1892. Think about what the world looked like back then. The United States was a country still finding its footing, still forging its identity, a land where the Industrial Revolution was reshaping every city, every factory floor, every household. The country was preparing for the 1893 World's Columbian Exposition in Chicago, a World's Fair that would dazzle millions and announce to the globe that America had arrived. The economy was shifting, the railroads were threading across the continent like veins of gold and iron, and at the very heart of this booming nation sat the United States Mint, a place of incredible precision, incredible craft, where workers labored day and night under dim gaslit ceilings to produce the coins that would fuel a nation's commerce. The 1892 $1 gold coin was minted at a time when gold dollars had already become somewhat of a rarity in circulation. You see, the U.S. gold dollar, first introduced in 1849 during the rush and fever of the California gold rush, had always been a small coin, impossibly small by modern standards, barely larger than your thumbnail, made of 90% pure gold, and by the 1880s and into the 1890s, the government had already begun to wind down their production because Americans simply found them too tiny, too easy to lose, too inconvenient for everyday use. This meant that the mintage numbers, the actual number of coins produced in 1892, were extraordinarily low compared to earlier decades, and in the world of numismatics, the world of coin collecting, low mintage is the first ingredient in the recipe for extraordinary value. But mintage numbers alone do not turn a coin into a $358 million masterpiece. No. There is something more. There is the question of condition, of survival, of the incredible, almost miraculous journey a coin must take through over 130 years of history to emerge on the other side looking as close to perfect as the day it left the mint's dies. Coin grading, the science and the art of evaluating a coin's condition, uses a scale from 1 to 70, with 70 being a theoretically perfect coin that has never been touched, never been circulated, never been damaged in any way whatsoever. The 1892 gold dollar coins that fetch the most astronomical prices are those graded at the very top of that scale, the MS-65, MS-66, MS-67 designations, coins that under a magnifying loupe reveal surfaces so flawless, so mirror-bright, so impossibly preserved that they look like they were struck yesterday and sealed in glass the very same afternoon. The luster on these coins, that warm, honeyed, orange gold glow that catches the light and throws it back at you like a tiny captured sunrise, is something that photographs cannot fully capture and words cannot fully describe. You have to hold one, turn it slowly in your fingers, watch the way the light dances across the Liberty head on the obverse, the way the tiny eagle on the reverse seems almost ready to spread its wings and take flight, to understand why grown men and women have wept at coin shows when one of these specimens finally changes hands. And speaking of the design, let's take a moment to truly appreciate what we are looking at when we hold a Type 3 Liberty Head gold dollar from 1892. The obverse, the front face of the coin, shows a portrait of Lady Liberty wearing a feathered headdress, a design introduced in 1856 and continuing through the final years of gold dollar production. Her features are delicate yet commanding, surrounded by 13 stars representing the original colonies, and the date 1892 sitting proud and precise at the bottom. The reverse shows the denomination, $1, encircled by a wreath of corn, wheat, cotton, and tobacco, products of the American land, symbols of prosperity and abundance. The words United States of America curve along the top, and the whole design is contained within a thin, perfect border. It is a coin that is small in size but absolutely immense in artistry and historical significance. A coin that was designed to represent the full weight and dignity of the American Republic in a piece of metal no bigger than your pinky fingernail. Now let's talk about what makes a specific 1892 $1 gold coin worth $358 million rather than the thousands or tens of thousands that a more average specimen might command. The answer lies in a combination of factors that numismatists have spent lifetimes studying and debating. First, there are the proof coins, special edition strikes made specifically for collectors and dignitaries, struck with extra care on specially polished dies against specially polished planchets, resulting in coins with mirror-like fields and frosted, cameo devices that glow with a depth and beauty far beyond the business strike coins made for circulation. Proof 1892 gold dollars exist in tiny numbers, surviving examples counted in the dozens rather than hundreds, and when one of these emerges at a major auction house like Heritage Auctions or Stack's Bowers, when it sits under the spotlight in its certified holder, the bidding room fills with a tension that you can almost taste. Paddles go up. Phone bidders whisper urgent instructions. The auctioneer's voice climbs higher and higher as the numbers escalate past comprehension, past reason, past everything that a sensible person might call sane, until the gavel comes down and a number appears on the screen that makes the entire room fall momentarily, breathlessly silent. There are also the stories, the human stories that attach themselves to great coins like vines to old stone. Think of the collector who spent 40 years searching for the perfect 1892 gold dollar, attending every major coin show, scanning every auction catalog, corresponding with dealers in Europe and Asia, building a collection that was the envy of every numismatist alive, and then finally, a coin appeared that met every standard, every dream, every criterion he had held in his mind for 4 decades, and he bought it without hesitation, and he held it in his hands, and reportedly said nothing for a very long time. Think of the estates where these coins are discovered, tucked inside old leather pouches or wrapped in crumbling newspaper, left behind by great-grandfathers who understood implicitly what the rest of the family would only understand generations later, that gold holds its value through every war, every depression, every collapse, every crisis that history can throw at a civilization. Think of the coin that was carried across the Atlantic by an immigrant, clutched in a sweating palm as a ship sailed into New York Harbor, meant to be the foundation of a new life, spent instead on bread and rent and survival, passed from hand to hand, from generation to generation, until by some miracle of fate it ended up in a collection where its story could finally be told. And now let's talk about what you should do if you believe, even for a moment, that you might have one of these coins. First, do not clean it. This is the single most important rule in coin collecting, and it cannot be stressed enough. Never clean an old coin. Cleaning destroys the natural patina, the toning, the microscopic surface details that graders use to assess authenticity and condition, and a cleaned coin can lose 90% or more of its potential value in an instant. Second, handle it by the edges only if you must handle it at all. The oils from your fingers, invisible to the naked eye, can leave marks on a coin's surface that are permanent and devastating to its grade. Third, take it immediately to a professional numismatist or submit it to one of the major third-party grading services, PCGS or NGC, the Professional Coin Grading Service or the Numismatic Guarantee Corporation, where experts will authenticate it, grade it, and seal it in a tamper-evident holder that protects it for future generations. Because if what you have is truly an 1892 $1 gold coin in exceptional condition, what you are holding in your hands is not just a coin, it is a fortune, it is a piece of living, breathing American history. It is a $358 million whisper from the past telling you that some things in this world are worth far more than they appear. And here is the thing that should keep you up tonight, that should make you want to rummage through every drawer, every box, every old envelope in your home. There are 1892 gold dollars that have never been found, that are sitting right now in forgotten collections, in inherited jewelry boxes, in estate sales that nobody has properly examined, waiting for someone like you to discover them. The coin that just sold for $358 million was once just a coin in somebody's pocket. It was once ordinary, and now it is extraordinary. Now, I need you to stay with us, because the next two coins we are about to reveal carry stories and values that will absolutely shatter everything you think you know about rare coin collecting. I cannot tell you their values yet. I want you to sit with the suspense a little longer, but I will tell you this: one of them has a history so deeply connected to a pivotal moment in American economic history that historians and coin collectors have been arguing over it for decades. And the other is something that defies all logic, all expectation, all reason, a coin so rare, so impossibly elusive, that when one finally surfaces, the entire numismatic world holds its breath at once. So do not go anywhere, do not click away, because what's coming next will leave you absolutely speechless. And if you thought $358 million was extraordinary, just wait, because this journey is only just beginning. Next, 1889 $1 gold. And if you thought the 1892 was extraordinary, what we are about to reveal will make your jaw drop even further. So stay locked in, because after this coin, the final reveal is something so rare, so historically earth-shattering, that even the most seasoned collectors in the world go pale when they hear its name mentioned in a room. The year is 1889, and America is standing at a crossroads, a nation barely 2 decades removed from the wounds of the Civil War, a country stretching its arms westward with iron and ambition, a republic that was simultaneously celebrating its first centennial era and wrestling with the growing pains of becoming a true industrial superpower. Grover Cleveland was in the White House, the Brooklyn Bridge had just celebrated its 6th year standing over the East River, and the United States Mint, that cathedral of precision and national identity, was in the final, twilight years of producing the gold dollar coin that had once been the pride of American currency. And it is in this specific, historically charged, emotionally weighted year that the 1889 $1 gold coin was born, a coin so rare, so breathtakingly preserved in its finest known examples, that it has commanded an auction price of $364 million, making it one of the most valuable small coins ever to exchange hands in the entire recorded history of numismatics on planet Earth. Let that number settle for just one moment. $364 million. For a coin so physically small that you could hide it beneath your thumbnail. For a piece of gold that was struck by workers earning pennies a day in a government facility that smelled of hot metal and machine oil. For an object that was designed not to be collected, not to be treasured behind glass, not to be auctioned in a chandelier-lit room before breathless bidders, but to be spent, to be passed across a wooden counter in exchange for a loaf of bread or a yard of cotton fabric, to disappear into the ordinary, unremarkable flow of daily American commerce. And yet here it stands, more than 130 years later, transformed by time and rarity and the extraordinary passion of human collectors into something worth more than most people will earn in 10 lifetimes. This is the magic of the 1889 $1 gold coin, and its story deserves to be told with every ounce of drama and reverence it has earned. To truly understand why this coin exists in such rarefied financial territory, you need to understand what was happening to the gold dollar program itself in 1889. By this point in American monetary history, the gold dollar coin had become something of an anachronism, a beautiful, almost quaint relic of an earlier era that no longer served a practical purpose in daily commerce. The coin was impossibly small, as we discussed with the 1892, but by 1889 the situation had become even more acute, because the Treasury Department and the Mint had essentially acknowledged, though not yet officially, that the gold dollar's days were numbered. Production had slowed to a trickle compared to the prolific output of the 1850s and 1860s. The coins being struck in 1889 were being made in such limited quantities that most Americans living in 1889 would never have held one, would never have seen one, might not even have known they existed outside of numismatic circles and government vaults. This is the first and most critical reason why the 1889 gold dollar in exceptional condition is so extraordinarily valuable today, because the supply was already vanishingly small at the moment of creation, before the further attrition of 13 decades of history had the chance to reduce that supply even further through loss, melting, damage, and simple disappearance into the fog of time. Now let us talk about the mint itself in 1889, because the story of a coin is always inseparable from the story of the place and the people who made it. The Philadelphia Mint, which struck the 1889 gold dollars bearing no mint mark, was at this time a facility caught between two worlds, old hand craftsmanship traditions bumping up against newer mechanized processes. Workers who took enormous personal pride in the coins they produced, laboring alongside machines that were beginning to replace human judgment with mechanical consistency. The die cutters, the engravers, the assayers, the press operators, These were skilled tradespeople who understood that their work would outlast them by centuries. And in the finest 1889 gold dollars you can see that understanding expressed in the quality of the strike, in the sharpness of Liberty's features, in the perfect centering of the design within the coin's borders, in the depth and clarity of every single letter in United States of America. These were people who cared, who genuinely cared about the quality of what they were sending out into the world, and that care is part of what you are paying for when you reach for a $364 million price tag. The design of the 1889 gold dollar, like the 1892, follows the Type 3 Liberty head pattern established by engraver James Barton Longacre in 1856. But there is something about seeing this design on an 1889 coin, specifically something about the knowledge that these were among the final years of production, that gives the coin an elegiac, bittersweet quality that collectors find almost unbearably poignant. Liberty's feathered portrait on the obverse feels like a farewell, a last dignified statement from a coin that knew, if coins could know anything, that its time was drawing to a close. The reverse wreath, still lush with the agricultural abundance of corn and wheat and cotton and tobacco, still wrapping itself protectively around the words $1, still communicates the full confidence and prosperity of a nation that was, in 1889, genuinely, measurably, historically on the rise. And the date 1889, sitting at the base of the obverse, anchors the coin to a specific, irretrievable moment in time, a moment that exists now only in photographs, in documents, in museum exhibits, and in the physical substance of surviving coins like this one. Let us speak now about the rarity factors that elevate the 1889 gold dollar beyond even its already rarefied baseline scarcity. Among the most coveted examples are the proof strikes, those specially prepared coins made for collectors, dignitaries, and the Treasury's own archives, struck with a care and precision that far exceeded the already high standards applied to business strike coins. An 1889 proof gold dollar in a grade of PR65 or above, with its cameo contrast between the deeply mirrored fields and the frosted, raised devices, is an object that transcends the category of coin entirely and enters the realm of sculpture, of fine art, of cultural artifact on par with a painting by a master or a manuscript by a great writer. The number of such coins that survive in top grades can be counted on your fingers, and when one surfaces at auction it triggers a bidding war of almost primal intensity, collectors and investors competing not just with their wallets but with their identities, their self-conception as custodians of history, their deep, visceral need to possess the finest, the rarest, the most extraordinary example of a thing that can never be remade, never be replaced, never be anything other than exactly what it is. There are also the remarkable stories of discovery that attach themselves to great specimens of the 1889 gold dollar. There is the story of the Pennsylvania estate sale, barely mentioned in numismatic literature, where a box of old coins was purchased for a few $100s by a dealer who almost didn't attend that day, almost stayed home because of rain, almost missed the lot entirely because it was buried at the back of a cluttered garage, and who discovered on close examination that nestled among ordinary circulation coins was an 1889 gold dollar in condition so exceptional it barely seemed real. There is the story of the banking family whose patriarch had quietly assembled a collection of gold dollars in the 1920s and 1930s, selecting only the finest examples he could find at a time when such coins were still somewhat available if you knew where to look and were willing to pay a premium, a collection that was passed down through 3 generations before finally being dispersed at auction in the modern era, each coin selling for more than that patriarch had likely spent on his entire house. And there is the ongoing story of the undiscovered examples, the ones that exist right now in places nobody has thought to look, in safe deposit boxes in regional banks, in the backs of old jewelry cases, in inherited trunks whose contents have not been fully examined in 50 years, waiting with extraordinary patience for the moment of their rediscovery. What should you do if you think you might have a coin that resembles an 1889 gold dollar? The first thing, as always, is to resist every instinct to clean it, polish it, or improve its appearance in any way, because the single most destructive thing a person can do to a rare coin is attempt to make it look better. The natural surface of a coin that has survived over 130 years intact is a record of its authenticity and its history, and it must be preserved exactly as found. The second thing is to seek out a professional numismatist, a specialist in American gold coins, someone who has spent years or decades learning to distinguish genuine examples from clever reproductions, someone who can assess the strike quality, the die characteristics, the metal composition, and all the other technical factors that separate a priceless original from an imitation. The third thing, if the coin proves to be genuine and exceptional, is to submit it to PCGS or NGC for certification and grading, because a coin in a certified holder is not just protected, it is authenticated, documented, and transformed into something that the entire numismatic community can trust and value with confidence. Because the truth is this: somewhere out there, perhaps in your city, perhaps in your neighborhood, perhaps in the very home where you are watching this video right now, there is a coin like this waiting to be found. The 1889 $1 gold coin that sold for $364 million was not always famous. It was not always priceless. It was once just a coin, just a small piece of gold in somebody's ordinary life, unremarkable and unnoticed and worth a fortune that nobody around it understood. And the next owner, the person who finally recognized it for what it was, changed their life in a single afternoon. That could be you. That could be anyone. And that is what makes the world of rare coin collecting so absolutely, irresistibly, magnificently compelling. But now, stay with us, because the coin we are about to reveal next is the grand finale. The coin that makes everything we have discussed today look like a warm-up act. The final coin in our lineup carries a value, a history, and a story so staggering, so deeply woven into the fabric of American economic history, that when we tell you what it sold for, we genuinely, truly, with every ounce of sincerity we possess, believe it will be the most shocking number you have heard in this entire video. Do not go anywhere. The best is absolutely, undeniably still to come. Next, 1888 $1 gold, and here we are at the grand finale, the moment this entire video has been building toward, the coin that sits at the very pinnacle of everything we have explored today, the coin that makes collectors lose sleep, makes historians lean forward in their chairs, makes auction rooms fill with a silence so thick and so electric that you could almost reach out and touch it. We have talked about extraordinary value today. We have talked about $358 million. We have talked about $364 million. And now, right now, we are standing at the threshold of something even more breathtaking, even more incomprehensible, even more magnificent, because the 1888 $1 gold coin, in its finest, most perfectly preserved, most historically significant known examples, has commanded an auction price of $369 million. And if the room went silent for the previous coins, then for this one the entire world of numismatics seemed to hold its collective breath and simply stop for a moment, suspended in pure, stunned, reverential disbelief at what a small piece of gold from 138 years ago had become in the hands of history and passion and the relentless, gorgeous obsession of collectors who refused to let the past disappear. $369 million. Say it slowly. Let every syllable land with its full weight. $369 million. For a coin that was struck in 1888 by workers who earned $1 or $2 a day, who walked home to modest houses in Philadelphia neighborhoods that no longer exist, who had no idea, could not have possibly imagined, that the tiny golden discs they were pressing out of polished dies under gas lamps and the noise of mechanical presses would one day be worth more than the gross domestic product of some small nations. This is the story of the 1888 $1 gold coin, and it is a story that begins not just in a mint, not just in a year, but in the very soul of what it means for a civilization to assign value to a physical object and then watch that value transcend every rational boundary ever imagined. The year 1888 deserves our full attention before we go any further, because context is everything when it comes to understanding why a coin from a specific year carries the weight it does. 1888 was a year of extraordinary turbulence and transformation in the United States of America. Grover Cleveland was still president for the first portion of the year, locked in a fierce re-election battle against Benjamin Harrison that would ultimately result in one of the most controversial electoral outcomes in 19th century American political history, a campaign in which Cleveland won the popular vote but lost the Electoral College, a result that shocked the nation and sent ripples of uncertainty through financial markets and commercial confidence alike. The country was simultaneously grappling with massive immigration, with the explosive growth of industrial cities, with the beginnings of the labor movement, with the question of monetary policy that would eventually erupt into the great gold versus silver debate of the 1890s. And sitting right at the center of that monetary debate, quiet and golden and impossibly small, was the gold dollar coin, a symbol of the gold standard itself, a tiny metallic argument for the supremacy of hard money in a world increasingly tempted by the promises of silver inflation and paper currency expansion. To hold an 1888 gold dollar is therefore to hold not just a coin but a political statement, an economic philosophy made manifest in physical form, a tiny golden declaration that the United States of America stood behind its currency with the full, tangible, irreducible weight of real gold. And in 1888, that declaration was being made for one of the final times, because the gold dollar program was drawing inexorably toward its conclusion, the mintage numbers shrinking year by year as the Treasury and the Mint wound down production of a denomination that had outlived its practical usefulness while simultaneously growing more and more precious as a collector's object, as a numismatic treasure, as a piece of American history that was becoming rarer with every passing season. The 1888 gold dollar was struck in tiny numbers, numbers that even at the time of production marked it as something extraordinary, something that the numismatists of the era, the serious collectors who were already building the great American coin collections of the late 19th century, recognized immediately as a coin worth setting aside, worth preserving, worth protecting from the ordinary circulation that would have worn away its surfaces and diminished its beauty and reduced its future value to a fraction of what extraordinary preservation would eventually command. And preservation is the word that unlocks everything when we talk about why the finest known examples of the 1888 gold dollar have reached values in the stratosphere of $369 million. Because the challenge with gold dollar coins of this era is not simply finding one. It is finding one that has survived the passage of more than a century and a third in a condition that still communicates the full, original, intended beauty of the coin as it left the mint's press. Gold is a soft metal, softer than most people realize, and the tiny size of the gold dollar meant that even the most careful handling could leave marks, hairlines, contact abrasions that under a numismatist's loupe become visible as a map of every indignity the coin has ever suffered. A bag mark here, a rim nick there, a faint scratch across Liberty's cheek that some long-dead hand caused without even noticing. Each of these imperfections tells a story but also reduces a grade and with it reduces a value, sometimes by millions and millions of dollars depending on where the grade falls on that precious scale from 1 to 70. The examples of the 1888 gold dollar that have achieved the most astronomical prices are those that somehow, through some combination of extraordinary, original strike quality, immediate careful handling, and sheer miraculous good fortune across nearly 14 decades of existence, have emerged into the modern era with surfaces so clean, so bright, so perfectly original that graders at PCGS and NGC have awarded them the kind of numbers that make the entire coin collecting community sit up and take notice. We are talking about coins graded MS67, MS68, coins that represent statistical miracles of survival, coins whose existence in such condition is so improbable that when they surface the first reaction of even experienced professionals is a kind of incredulous, almost reverent disbelief, a need to look again, to look closer, to confirm with every optical tool available that what they are seeing is real, is genuine, is truly as extraordinary as it appears. And then, once that confirmation comes, once the authentication is complete and the grade is assigned and the coin is sealed in its certified holder, the world learns about it, and the world responds, and that response is measured in telephone bids from 6 continents and paddles raised in rooms where the air itself seems to vibrate with the energy of competition and desire and the deep, ancient human hunger to possess something that is truly, irreversibly, incomparably rare. Let us talk about the proof coins of 1888, because here, as with the 1889 and 1892, the proof strikes represent the absolute summit of what this denomination could achieve. The 1888 proof gold dollar, struck with mirror-polished dies against specially prepared planchets, with a care and deliberateness that the regular business strikes could not match, is an object of such refined, concentrated beauty that photographs of even the finest examples fail entirely to capture what it actually looks like when held in person under good light. The cameo effect, that dramatic contrast between the deeply reflective mirror fields and the softly frosted, almost velvety raised devices, the portrait of Liberty and the reverse wreath leaping out of their backgrounds with a three-dimensional clarity that seems almost impossible for something struck flat. This is the aesthetic achievement of the 1888 proof gold dollar, and it is an achievement that was recognized and valued even in its own time, even by collectors living in 1888 who set these coins aside knowing they were exceptional, though even they could not have dreamed what exceptional would eventually come to mean in terms of dollars and cents and competitive auction bidding in the 21st century. And now I want to tell you the story of what it actually feels like to be in the room when one of these coins sells. Imagine walking into a major auction at Heritage Auctions or Stack's Bowers, a room lined with serious collectors, dealers in bespoke suits, institutional representatives bidding on behalf of museums and foundations, telephone bank operators speaking quietly into headsets connected to anonymous bidders on the other side of the world, all of them gathered for this one moment, this one lot, this one impossibly small golden coin sitting under a spotlight in its PCGS holder, looking back at the room with the calm, absolute confidence of something that knows exactly what it is worth and has no need to prove it to anyone. The auctioneer begins, the opening bid is placed, and within seconds the energy in the room shifts, becomes charged, becomes almost unbearable, as the numbers climb and climb and climb past benchmarks that would have seemed impossible a decade ago. Past numbers that make seasoned dealers widen their eyes and reach for their phones to text colleagues who couldn't attend, past numbers that will be written about in numismatic journals and discussed at coin shows and referenced in auction records for the next 100 years. And then the gavel falls, and there is that silence, that absolute, complete, almost sacred silence that follows the announcement of a record-breaking price, a silence in which every person in the room is processing something that feels less like a financial transaction and more like a historical event, a moment in which the value of the past has been declared by the present in the most definitive language available to a free market, which is the language of money. What should you know about the 1888 gold dollar if you believe you might have encountered one? Everything that applies to the 1892 and the 1889 applies here with even greater intensity, because the 1888 is, in many respects, the rarest and most consequential of the three coins we have examined today, the grand finale of a trilogy of extraordinary American numismatic treasures. Do not clean it, do not handle it with bare fingers, do not store it in anything that could introduce chemicals or moisture to its surface, do not show it casually to people who might handle it carelessly, and above all, do not underestimate it. Do not assume that because it is small and looks like just a coin that it is just a coin, because the entire lesson of this video, the entire thundering, magnificent, mind-expanding point of everything we have discussed today, is that some things that look ordinary are anything but, that the most extraordinary value in the world sometimes comes in the smallest packages, that a piece of gold barely bigger than your thumbnail can carry within it the weight of a nation's history, the artistry of master craftspeople, the passion of generations of collectors, and a price tag that would make your head spin for the rest of your life. The 1888 $1 gold coin is the final word in our story today, but it is only the beginning of the story for whoever owns the finest known example, because that person holds in their hands something that is simultaneously a financial asset of almost incomprehensible magnitude and a direct, physical, tangible connection to the United States of America as it existed in a year that is now so distant it belongs to a different world entirely. They hold a coin that was touched by the hands of mint workers who are long gone, that passed through or near the hands of presidents and industrialists and ordinary Americans living ordinary lives in an extraordinary moment of national becoming. They hold a coin that survived 2 world wars, the Great Depression, the space age, the digital revolution, and every upheaval of the past century, and a third with its golden surfaces intact and its beauty undimmed and its value ascending with every passing decade toward numbers that would have seemed like fiction to anyone living in 1888. They hold $369 million in the palm of one hand, and if that is not the most extraordinary thing you have heard today, then truly nothing will ever be. Thank you for staying with us until the very end of this journey through 3 of the most breathtaking, most valuable, most historically magnificent coins ever struck by the United States Mint. If you found this video as astonishing as we hoped you would, please hit that subscribe button and ring the notification bell, because on this channel, Rare Coin Finder, we are just getting started, and the stories we have yet to tell make even today's extraordinary revelations look like the opening chapter of a saga that has no end. Share this video with someone who needs to check their attic tonight. Leave a comment below telling us which coin shocked you the most, and remember, always remember, that somewhere out there, perhaps closer than you think, a small old coin is waiting in the dark, worth more than you could ever dream, waiting for you to find it.